Hello and welcome to this channel. The topic of this video is Neo Sumerian art from ancient Mesopotamia. Also known as the Third Dynasty of Ur, the Neo Sumerian period emerged after the fall of the Akkadian Empire. If you want to know more about Akkadian art, please consider watching my last video in the series on this topic. The fall of the Akkadian Empire is partly attributed to a group of non-Semitic mountain people known as the Gudeans, who settled the region around 2150 BCE. They formed a short-lived dynasty in southern Mesopotamia, but were in turn driven out by a resurgence in the unified power of the city-states of ancient Sumer. This established a period of Neo-Sumerian dominance ruled by the kings of Ur, also known as the Third Dynasty of Ur. It gets this name from the Sumerians' kings list, an ancient Sumerian text that lists the names of cities and their rulers. The Third Dynasty of Ur started as a kingdom founded by Ur-Nama, who reunited southern Mesopotamia in about 2112 BCE. His son and successor, Shulgi, expanded the territory with military campaigns, creating an empire that included the city-states of Uruk, Lagash, and Elam, amongst others. While it succeeded the Akkadian Empire, its identity is Sumerian due to the use of ancient Sumerian language by the kings and officials of the time. Many surviving documents are administrative in nature, providing insight into the bureaucratic climate of the period. While Neo-Sumerian art was influenced by the less rigid art of the Akkadian Empire, a revival of Sumerian stylistic qualities occurs, and a focus on royalty and divinity re-emerges. The style and iconography of Akkadian Empire that favored warfare and military conquests is replaced with religious preferences of early Sumerian art, including artwork reflecting pious and religious acts of the rulers, as with the early dynastic era. In addition to themes of religious fervor are themes of serene majesty, power, and force, often seen in architectural structures such as ziggurats and temples. These are often built on scale with monumental staircases symbolic of a link between heaven and earth. The most well-known is the ziggurat at Ur, a 3-story brick tower started by Ur-Nama. It features staircases and temples and served as a symbolic path between the heavens and the earth. Sculptural works were created to function as votive statues and monumental reliefs, often attached to architectural structures such as ziggurats and temples. Alternatively, they were created to be buried into the ground in the form of copper foundation figures. These foundation figures were not intended to be viewed by the public, and as such were placed under the foundation of a building, such as a temple, usually buried under the walls during construction. They were commissioned by royal leaders who wished to leave a record of their deeds, and were most likely intended to be viewed by the gods associated with the temple. These foundation figures measured about a foot in height and featured a combination of naturalistic and abstract form. They were solid cast from copper alloyed using molds. The use of copper allowed for a more fluid approach to form than a material such as stone would create, creating a sense of grace in the figures portrayed. These statuettes ended in a tapering peg which would be inscribed after casting with cuneiform. The cuneiform inscription was a short dedication with the ruler's name establishing him as a pious builder or architect, as well as the name of the deity in the temple. These foundation figures served as ritual markers for the piety of the ruler, establishing the temple as a house of a god built by the king as a tribute. Foundation figures portrayed images of the king carrying a basket of earth above his head. The posture of the king is deliberately styled to be workmanlike, emphasizing royal humility. The iconography of the basket is also found on larger relief panels carved into stelae, often showing teams of workers carrying materials in baskets while building the great ziggurat. These statuettes were placed in what was referred to as the first brick ceremony, where the ruler participated as a workman by carrying clay in a basket to begin the building project. It was often placed inside a brick box with other items such as inscribed tablets. It functioned as part of foundation rite that connected writing, offerings, and objects to establish a sacred space. The ruler, the building, and the deity were ritually connected at the moment of the start of the building project. The carrying of the basket suggested the role of the king as a humble servant of the deity, and also established his royal authority. By placing the figure and the foundations under the wall footings or at a corner point, this relationship was given permanence at the most vulnerable point. The sacred space carries a reminder of the builder for future generations. Sculptural pieces depicting portraiture often show similar features such as rimmed eyes and distinctive eyebrows and lips. Faces are often depicted with a slightly upturned bow-shaped mouth and broad cheek planes. With some portraits, the eyes may be inlaid with materials such as lapis lazuli. This is seen in a broken figure of a head of a princess found in Ur in 1927. The facial features show a characteristic wide-eyed look, and her curly hair is encased in a headband. The new aesthetic seen in the approach to portraiture in Neo-Sumerian art is most evident with numerous prayer statues of Gudea, who was a ruler of the state of Lagash between 2144 and 2124 BCE. During his rule, he is credited with building temples and palaces, as well as commissioning numerous portrait statues of himself. Many of these statues were found either headless or without a body. All show a high level of craftsmanship. Over 24 of these statues have been found so far, carved from volcanic rocks such as blue diorite and black dolerite. In these statues, Gudea is portrayed either standing or seated and almost always has his hands clasped in prayer. He is often depicted with shaved head and face and wears a monk-like robe with the right arm and shoulder bare. The carving of the robe is often less detailed than that of the face and body. The facial features and pose of the body present a serene yet majestic image of the ruler. This sense of serenity and pious reservation contrasts to the dynamic naturalism seen in Akkadian art. These statues of Gudea served as a stand-in for the ruler in a temple, offering constant prayer on his behalf. Most have inscriptions that name Gudea as well as the deity to which the dedication was directed. The individual statues do show differences. For example, they may hold either a water jug or a plan of his palace, or a measuring scale and a stylus. In one example, he wears a garment similar to Akkadian royal clothing. Few examples of female portraiture from the Neo Sumerian period have been uncovered so far. One such example is a sculptural work that shows a female figure whose hands are held in a similar prayer position to the statues of Gudea. This positioning of her hands has led archaeologists to identify her as potentially being Gudea's wife. The figure wears a tunic and mantle adorned with embroidered ribbons. Her hair is curled and has a cloth headdress attached with a ribbon. The image conveys the same sense of serene majesty and mysticism as seen with the statues of Gudea. Animal motifs were also a common subject in Neo Sumerian art, and are often found used in practical items such as weight. One such example makes use of a duck motif, with the head of the duck turned back and resting on the body, and finer details carved out in relief. Abstract shapes such as four-sided pyramids would also be used for weights, and would include relief carvings of symbols of the gods. Supernatural beasts also feature, such as man-headed or androcephalic bulls or lions. While these appear later in Assyrian architecture as guards to palaces and temples, early examples are found from the Neo-Sumerian period. The iconography of this hybrid human-animal form is especially notable with the man-bull imagery, with one source noting that over 100 examples of these androcephalic bulls have been found so far. These man-headed bulls are more commonly referred to as Lamassu, which is a protective wind deity with astronomical symbolism common in ancient Mesopotamian iconography. It takes on many names and forms over time, dating back as early as 3000 BCE to the Kingdom of Alba, an early kingdom in ancient Syria. The term Lamassu originally referred to a Sumerian deity, and also appears in the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is associated with the Akkadian messenger god Papsukal and the Babylonian fire god Isham. Their protective function meant that they were often placed as sentinels at important locations, having both religious significance as well as architectural as they function as support structures. I will look at their architectural usage more in a future video on Assyrian art. A small carved amulet made from carnelian and lapis lazuli, two rare and relatively hard semi-precious stones, shows this man-headed bull iconography. As the lapis lazuli used comes from the mines in remote regions of Afghanistan, the cost of mining and transportation indicates that it was most likely owned by an individual with wealth and high status. The amulet shows a reclining bull with legs folded underneath. There are suggestions of musculature in the haunches and back. The face is of a bearded male with the horns of a bull. The eyes are wide and oval, and the mouth is downturned. The ears are shown as half circles and the nose is triangular. Carnelian is used for the face, providing the complexion of the human face constructed to the bull's body. Black pigment is used to enhance details. The two different textures and two different colors of the stones used show the artist's skill as using the natural properties of the material. The image I am doing a study of also shows mythological creatures in the form of two dragon-like animals. This is a schematic drawing showing the decorative design of the libations cup of Gudea. It includes two standing mythological creatures known as Mushushu, each holding a spear. The bodies of these dragons are depicted feline-like with eagle wings and a snake-like head. This hybrid creature is a prominent mythological creature from ancient Mesopotamian culture and represents a synthesis of three powerful animals, the serpent, the lion, and the bird. Both dragons face two serpents twisted together around a cane that runs down what is the center front of the cup. The term Mushushu translates to furious or splendid serpent, and its use on the design of this cup is one of its earliest appearances. The cup is dedicated to the god Ning-ish-Zida, who is associated with vegetation, serpents, and the underworld, and was commissioned by Gudea of Lagash. It would have been used in religious ceremonies to contain offerings or libations for the deity. The cup is carved from stone, and is an example of how the older pre-Akkadian artistic influence of using non-human deities was still incorporated into Neo-Sumerian art. During the Neo-Babylonian Empire, this creature will become the sacred animal of the Babylonian god Marduk and his son Nabu. In the mythology from this period, the Mushushu was vanquished by Marduk and then transformed into his sacred servant, symbolically signifying Marduk's power as a ruler able to subdue chaos. The image is similar to the caduceus or the staff of Hermes from Greek mythology, which has two snakes intertwined on a staff surmounted by wings. The imagery of the Sumerian god Ning-Eshida may have been an early influence on this image, as his symbol is the staff with two snakes intertwined on it, possibly copulating. In Roman iconography, the god Mercury carries the staff in his left hand. It is also similar to the rod or staff of Asclepius, also called the Asclepian. This is a sacred symbol used by ancient physicians, which is still used in medical contexts today. It consists of a rod entwined with a serpent that was carried by the Greek god of healing and medicine, Asclepius. The Asclepian and the caduceus symbols are often confused with each other and thus misused in different contexts. Cylinder seals will continue to be produced during the Neo Sumerian period, with the iconography favouring what is known as the presentation scene, where a worshipper is presented to a seated deity. The scene usually involved a goddess wearing a tiered dress leading the worshipper to the deity. The worshipper holds his hand before his face in a pious gesture. Inscriptions provide the names of the owner of the seal and their occupation. With some of these images, the worshipper is presented to the king, who is seated on the right of the image, a position reserved for the gods. He may also wear a tiered garment similar to that which deities usually wear. He is depicted enthroned with balances a small cup on his fingertips. By 2004 BCE, the Neo-Sumerian period would come to an end due to incursions from outside forces such as the Amorites, a group from western Mesopotamia. Fractures within the internal workings of the kingdom, a weakened power base of the sovereigns, and climatic factors may also have contributed to the end of the ThIrd Dynasty of Ur. This period would be followed by the Old Babylonian period, which will be covered in my next video. As always, thanks for watching and take care.